Greetings and welcome. I'm Jen. We're going to engage in a short, all seated practice where we'll work on some mobility in the hips, some care for the lower back, releasing some tension in neck and shoulders, and also just taking some time to begin and to close, to just connect into the body, to reset, a little stretch and reset, we'll call this. If you have a blanket or a pillow, you could use that to just assist in any of the seated shapes that we'll take. It might be kind of nice to have a little extra height or cushion. But otherwise, however you are, if you're on carpet, on a mat, wherever you are, come as you are to this practice. I invite you to come to either find a comfortable seat or to maybe start lying on your back. You could even be seated in a chair if you want to begin this practice in that way. I'm just going to start a little music and I will join you as well. I'm going to sit on a rolled up blanket and I'm going to choose cross-legged. I like a little bit of height and cushion underneath when I sit cross-legged, so that's my choice, and go ahead and make yours. And then starting to settle in, again, on your back or in a seated position, and allowing yourself to take a little movement in the body just to feel the connection that your body is making with the ground. So maybe there's a few little shifts or pivots or fidgets in the body. If you are seated, I really encourage you to check that you are feeling upright on your sitting bones. So feeling that slight forward tilt at your pelvis, starting to let your arms rest wherever feels most comfortable, and either let your gaze soften. So looking out at the floor or maybe on the ceiling, or maybe your eyes begin to close. And take a few moments to let the fact that we've kind of closed off our visual input, let that be an invitation to start to really draw in and to just notice your body, your breath, taking note of simply how you feel right now. And it's okay to really answer that question authentically, genuinely. Just how are you? Letting yourself just enjoy the gift of being able to notice you, taking that time to elevate how you are. If it feels available to you, I'd invite you to set one hand over your heart, one hand over your belly, just to make a little stronger connection to your breath. Taking some note of the quality of your inhales and exhales, and not from a judgment standpoint, just a noticing. Does it feel like you're breathing in your chest? Does it feel like you're breathing a little bit more deeply into the belly? Where is your body most comfortable breathing in and out? Is it in and out of the nose, in through the nose, out through the mouth? Just allowing yourself space to draw attention to the natural scope of your breath. Feeling, being consciously aware of your inhales, noticing and being aware of your exhales. And if it feels okay for you, perhaps taking a few more deeper breaths in. Maybe if your hand on your belly has not been moving, see if you can draw a deeper breath in to let that belly hand rise, to feel your exhale soften through ribs, through belly, through chest. Taking 3 more focused, aware, and perhaps deeper breaths. And on that third exhale, maybe you even sigh out a bit on that third exhale. We'll start to blink the eyes open if they were closed. We'll connect to a seated position. So if you were on your back, making your way, I am going to choose to stay in this cross-legged space a little bit longer. And as you settle in, again, feeling really upright through the spine, take an inhale to stretch the arms overhead. As you exhale, we'll tilt over to the right side of your mat, a gentle touchdown of your right hand, feeling your left side body open, keeping your left hip really rooted down. Notice if you're rounded slightly forward, how might it feel to draw your left shoulder back? And you might even peek over that left arm. Take a full breath in, stay for your breath out, and then use your next inhale to pass through center, stretch up and reach. Use an exhale to tilt. So you get to determine the pace of your breath here. Take a few moments again to feel some softness and ease in your shoulders away from your ears. To again, maybe draw the right shoulder away and back, and perhaps you look over to the right side of the room as the right hip stays deeply connected down. Take your next inhale, stretch up, reach. Maybe you pause for a breath or two. We'll go one more time each side. Maybe there's a little bit more opening in the side body, but notice if you're tempted to collapse into your right side, can you still feel a little bit of length even in your right rib cage? And then again, an inhale will bring you through. Stay as long as you like, stretching up, and tilt on your exhale, feeling that softening and ease, relaxing through the left elbow. Take another full breath in and full breath out. We'll come back to upright. I'm going to plant my hands and give a little lean back to help my legs uncross. I'm going to take just a moment here to windshield wiper my legs. So just to give a little release, I find cross-legged to be kind of a stretchy position for my hips and my knees. Feel free to lean back as you give these legs a little sway. This movement is a really nice way to send a little care and movement to the lower back. And then let's spend just a little bit more time seated. I'm going to choose cross-legged again, but can you cross your legs the other direction? There we go. You probably will notice when you do, because we tend to have a default side that we most prefer in our bodies. Take another little shift and wiggle. And again, on an inhale, let's reach up, stretch up. As you exhale, turn and twist to the right. So left arm in front, right arm in back. You might be pressing through the fingertips, maybe the heels of your hands touch through the floor. Feel a draw up as you inhale, and exhale to soften, relax into your rotation with this gentle approach, just a gentle wringing out of the spine. Next inhale will bring you through center, reach and stretch, and use an exhale to twist to the left. Keeping that really constant flow of energy where inhales are lengthening, exhales are softening. Again, we'll go one more time each side. Your inhale brings you through center. Stay for a breath or two if that stretch up feels good. Take an exhale to soften to the right. As many breaths as you like here, relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. You don't have to wait for me to switch. You could even be switching with a more quick pace side to side. I'm going to take my final stretch up and reach, and exhale, twist to the left. So if you find yourself coming back to this practice a few times, feel free to make that more dynamic movement if you want to go back and forth an additional few times. Inhale to lengthen, exhale to soften. I'm going to take one more stretch up and reach. I am going to pause for a few breaths. Maybe you join me, fingertips stretching to the sky, shoulders away from the ears, like you're tractioning your spine from the tailbone all the way through to the crown of your head. Exhale, bring your hands down. I'm going to help myself unwind the legs, and I'm going to scoot the blanket that I've been using off to the side. So I invite you to be fully connected to the ground here. And let's go ahead and return to windshield wiper movements of the legs. And you could be leaning back a bit. I'm just going to show you from the side. If you are leaning back, you might find you get a bit of a stretch in the shoulders, but do lean back still with a lift of your heart. So I'm not leaning back, collapsing into my back. I'm leaning back with purpose and keeping a slight lift of my heart. Perhaps as you continue, it feels okay to start to sit more upright, and you might find you're lifting up the opposite hip. You might lean back a bit on the switcheroo and then come upright. Taking a few more moments to explore how this feels, to land maybe with both legs really softening down, being mindful of your range of motion. If you think it would feel okay to linger a bit, we'll pause with both knees over to the right, and I'm going to bring both 10 fingertips kind of over toward that right side of my space. Almost like I'm centering around my right knee, giving again a lift of your heart. So I'm not rounding my back or dropping my chin. I'm softening a little bit at the waist to get a tiny stretch in the hips. Take another breath in and a breath out. And then I'm going to unwind, pass through center. You could even give yourself a couple of wiggles before you go over to the left-hand side. And then surrendering over both knees drop. You can reposition how much the knees are bent. My right hip has lifted quite a bit to allow me to touch my fingertips over to the left side. And again, as much rotation, there's a little torso twist here, but noticing if it feels like you're collapsing into your body, can you really lift up your heart and find any kind of leaning off to that side as a hinge from the waist? You might feel a little stretch in the hips. Take another full breath in and full breath out. And then we'll unwind, come back to center. planting your feet nice and wide, knees bent, hands behind you for a moment if that feels okay, to sit up really tall. So I do find a pretty good stretch in my hips just trying to sit in this way. You might find it more comfortable or more available to actually grab the legs if that gives you kind of a pull and attraction to draw your spine long. So giving yourself permission to adjust this position, knowing that if your hips are really tight, this can feel really challenging if your lower back is really tight. So keeping yourself positioned wider, more narrow, any sort of adjustment that makes the space for your body on this day. Feeling your shoulders press away from your ears, the crown of your head lengthen. Take another breath in and a breath out. Good. We'll bring the hands back behind us. I'm going to bring my feet to plant. I'm just going to turn sideways to show here. Knees bent. I have my fingertips pointing toward my feet. That actually gives me a wrist stretch that I prefer. You could be up on tented fingertips behind you. Give a lift again of your chest so your spine is tall and long, and start to bend into the elbows and lift up. You might find you want to soften kind of both elbows at the same time. You could even alternate one elbow at a time to find some opening in your front body. If you're not feeling a lot here, sometimes it helps me to scoot my hips closer to my feet. That gives a little bit more space to maybe feel some stretch across your front body. Take a few more moments. Again, you don't have to go up and down all the time. Maybe you soften in and you stay and feel that stretch. If you still are feeling like there's more to be had in this stretch for your body, you could scoot your hips forward and back instead. That will put a little more pressure on the wrists. That could enhance stretch in the chest and shoulders. So again, without any judgment, just taking the approach today that really honors what you need for upper body opening. This, again, if you come back to this practice, could very much vary day by day. And then as you're ready, we'll come back up for just a moment, and I'm going to take my left leg straight out. You can keep a lean back on your hands, or maybe after that much that we've done, it feels okay to come down to your forearms. From either position, again, notice if you're collapsing into your back, keep a lift and letting your chin be somewhat neutral. And then I'm going to let my right leg turn out and cross over. I'm going to turn to face you here briefly as we do this. So again, whether you're on your hands or your elbows, letting your knee open and cross. So a little hip mobility. We're not using any arms to help pull and tug, so we're really exploring this. Maybe when your knee crosses over, you take a sweep and a kick out of that right leg. That could elevate what you're feeling in the outer hip, in the lower back, and might even bring a bit of a stretch into kind of this outer band of muscle tissue on the outside of your right leg. When I extend the leg, I tend to flex my foot, so kind of driving my toes to stretch behind me. Take a few more breaths here to feel and to explore, and again, to pause. Maybe at some point you say, I'm just going to hold with that knee open, or I'm going to hold with that leg across. And as you're ready, let's carefully sit back up with both legs out in front. So this is a quick little checkpoint. I tend to soften my knees and try to get really up onto my sitting bones and feel into your hamstrings. So this could be a moment to just check how tight your hamstrings are. I'm going to again turn to the side, making sure our spine is lifted, that kind of inner natural curve at the lower back, rather than letting the legs touch flat if they can't, or if you touch flat in your back rounds, we're going to prioritize the spine here. Take a breath in to lengthen your spine. Exhale like you're pressing your hands to the ground. You might actually make contact, depends on the length of your arms, but staff pose, feeling this draw up, stretching through the spine, and a nice gentle potential stretch in your hamstrings. And then as you're ready, I'm going to help my legs bend and then recreate that position either back on your hands or back on your elbows to take the right leg straight and to let the left knee then open and cross over. So make some adjustments, give yourself time to arrive. And again, notice if you're kind of collapsing into your upper back, see if you can keep that draw up of your chest. So you might feel a continuous stretch across your shoulders as well. And then if it feels okay, when that left knee is crossing over, you could sweep and kick the left leg out. So you might see I have that flexed foot that usually gives me a little bit more sensation. Take a few more rounds, whether it's again this kind of constant flow of movement or whether you find a place to linger and to pause. Taking just a few more breaths to notice the hips and any other stretches you might be checking in with an outer hip, lower back. And then again, I'm going to plant the feet. I'm going to start to bring myself back up. Let's return to prepping for staff pose. So give yourself that adjustment and wiggle, letting your feet be flexed. And again, as much bend in the knees as allows you to be really upright and forward on your sitting bones. Maybe see how it feels to soften the backs of your knees now just a little bit more. And we'll take a quick upright twist, really good reset for the back, and to actually strengthen through the legs. Keep the legs and your hips and lower back really still. We're going to take all 10 fingertips and lean back to the right and find a gentle twist. See if you can touch fingertips down without letting your hips rotate. So just a gentle twist in upper back. Use an inhale to come back to center. And as you're ready, take an exhale to lean and rotate back to touch off the left side of your mat. And again, I'm trying to keep my hips really still here. So it's called greeting the earth pose, seemingly so maybe not profound, but quite good for the back and the legs. Coming back up to center, help yourself give those legs a little wiggle. I'm going to turn to face you, and let's just spend a little bit more time on the hamstring. So we had both legs straight. Let's keep the left leg straight out, bend the right knee. See how that feels first to come into this kind of hurdler shape. So left leg straight out. Again, the priority is sitting up straight. So soften the left knee as much as you need to prioritize your spine. You could always put a blanket or a pillow under that right knee if that feels better for your body. And then depending on your hamstrings, even if the knee is slightly bent, toe really flexed up, maybe you hinge a bit and kind of walk yourself out toward your left foot, but walking out as though I'm trying to touch my nose or my chest toward my left foot. I'm not rounding my back. I'm not dropping my chin toward my leg. I'm keeping stretch and length through my hamstring and my back. Breathing into the idea of length, exhaling to find some softness. One more time, breathing in for length, exhale for softness. Good. We'll come up. How about a bend of the left leg? Can you find a butterfly shape? You might find comfortability kind of wiggling in this. You might find you hold. If your hips are really tight, I would keep the feet farther apart and farther away from your body, and hands maybe behind you, or you could gently grab at the lower parts of the legs. We just don't want to pull up on the feet. Just taking a moment to butterfly shape, and then we'll switch sides. Right leg out. Left leg keeps that bend. Again, a little adjustment through the sitting bones, determining how straight or what bend in the right leg feels good for you to really draw up. So much length and stretch in your spine. This can be your spot, staying right here. Quite often in my body, this gives me a lot of sensation, is really working to sit up tall. Feel free to start to walk out if that's what your body may need today. You can, again, always have a support under the left leg. And I hope that whatever you approach each shape with on this day, this time for this practice, that again, you center it from that empowerment place of finding the just right thing your body needs today. What does your right hamstring need today? Breathe into that goodness. Give it an exhale. Keep stretching long, long, long through entire back body. One more breath out. And then we'll help ourselves slowly walk up. If you hinged, help your legs out. And then whatever you most prefer. Do you want to wiggle the legs? Do you want to give yourself a gentle windshield wiper of the legs? Whatever feels best. And then let's reconnect to a position of stillness, seated, your choice. You could come back to cross-legged. Maybe you use a pillow or a blanket and you sit in more of a hero pose. Now that we've kind of warmed the body, you could sit kind of between the feet or on the legs. So any position that you want to spend just a few more minutes upright, letting your arms rest, letting your spine again grow tall. And as you settle in, finding a few movements in your head, your neck, maybe your shoulders, maybe you close your eyes. Just coming out of just this short practice that we engaged in, noticing if we indirectly kind of created any tension while we explored. And as we start to settle into close, that we return to these smaller, tinier places, tilting the head, finding some circles of the head and neck. And again, there can be a lot of movement here or moments where you simply pause. Take a few more breaths, being open to whatever organic movements or pausing or stillness feels best to your body. And then as you're ready, making one final determination. Do you want to stay in the seated position where you've been? Would you prefer to come to lay on your back for a few moments? You could even make your way to a child's pose for a few breaths. Given again the things that we've explored, it might feel good to come down. You could still have a blanket or a pillow and to let yourself soften toward a child's pose. Any place where your body feels okay connecting for just a few more breaths. Letting yourself again meet the ground, wherever your body has that connection to the earth, feeling yourself soften into those spaces, letting your eyes close or your gaze soften. And take a moment to scan. Can you soften around your forehead? How would it feel to relax your jaw? Could you let your shoulders create a bit more space away from your ears wherever you are, finding that increased space as you breathe? How would it feel to relax your wrists, your fingers? Could you let your hips melt a little bit more open toward the ground, again from wherever you're positioned? Send a breath into your lower back, maybe a breath of gratitude. A complete breath in, a softening exhale. Give a little bit more of that goodness to your knees, to your ankles, all the way down to your toes. And I invite you to come back to your breath. Just again, a noticing of your inhales and your exhales. The power we have to come to this moment to notice our breathing, to be aware of our inhales and exhales that so much through our day move without us paying attention. Draw that focus here for just a few more moments. As you continue to take this quick reset, this time for you, maybe you take a few more breaths centered again around grace, kindness, love for you. Thank you for making this time for this practice, to elevate this season of you, to take care of you as we take care of others. Please continue to stay where you are if that works for your body. I'm going to bring myself upright to take the time to close this shared space with you. Thank you for inviting me into your day. I wish you peace in your body, ease in your mind. And until we meet again on our mat, namaste.